Listen to me. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who spend their lives stressing over things they can't change, and those who focus on what they can control and make something happen. Which one are you? See, too many of us are walking around frustrated, angry, anxious, carrying weight that ain't even ours to carry. You're mad about the past, but can't change it. You're worried about what people think, but you can't control them. You're scared of failure, but fear don't pay no bills. Let me tell you something. You are wasting precious energy on things outside your control. And that energy, that's the fuel you need to chase your dreams, to build your life, to win. I need you to understand something today. When you waste time worrying about things you can't change, you rob yourself of the power to change what you can. You can't control if somebody likes you. You can't control if the economy shifts. You can't control how the world reacts to you, but you can control your efforts. You can control your mindset. You can control your response. So today, right now, I need you to make a decision. Let it go. That stress, let it go. That disappointment, let it go. That toxic relationship, let it go. Because the second you release what you can't control, you grab hold of what you can. And that, my friend, is the moment you become unstoppable. Now go out there and take control of what belongs to you, your future, your grind, your greatness. In life, there will always be things we can't control, things that happen outside of our influence, circumstances that seem unfair, obstacles that appear out of nowhere. But the problem is, most people spend their time stressing over those things instead of focusing on what they can actually do something about. They get caught up in situations that are completely out of their hands, losing time, energy, and focus on battles they were never meant to fight in the first place. Imagine someone who wakes up every morning already frustrated. They're mad about the traffic they have to sit in. They're upset about the weather not going their way. They're scrolling through social media, angry about what somebody else is doing or saying. They're worrying about whether people will like them, whether they'll fit in, whether things will work out in the future. But what they don't realize is that all of this is outside of their control. They can't dictate the traffic, they can't change the weather, and they definitely can't control what people think about them. And yet they're wasting all their energy stressing over it instead of focusing on what they actually can do something about. See, life is full of things that are beyond our reach. You don't get to control the family you were born into. You don't get to control how other people treat you. You don't get to decide what challenges come your way, but you do get to decide how you respond. You do get to decide how much effort you put in. You do get to decide what actions you take every single day. And that's where your power is. The problem is people spend so much time worrying about the uncontrollable that they don't take action on the things they can change. They focus on the obstacles instead of the opportunities. They complain about the economy instead of learning new skills. They stress about other people's opinions instead of building confidence in themselves. They waste their days in frustration instead of putting in the work to improve their situation. Think about a basketball player who misses a shot. They can't go back and change the fact that they missed, but what they can do is adjust their technique, practice harder, and take a better shot next time. If they stand there stuck on the miss, beating themselves up over it, they're just taking themselves out of the game. That's exactly what too many people do in life. They stay stuck in the things they can't fix instead of focusing on the things they can improve. Now, let's be real. It's easy to get caught up in the things that feel unfair. It's easy to get frustrated when things don't go your way. It's easy to feel like life is against you when unexpected problems show up. But getting upset about those things doesn't change them. Complaining doesn't fix them. Wishing things were different doesn't make them different. What changes things is action. What makes a difference is putting your focus on solutions instead of problems. What gets you ahead is making the most of the things you can control instead of worrying about what you can't. There are people out there who have been dealt a tough hand in life. They didn't grow up with money. They didn't have opportunities handed to them. They didn't have the best circumstances. But instead of focusing on what they didn't have, they focused on what they could do. They worked hard. They stayed disciplined. They made the best out of what they had, and because of that, they changed their lives. But then there are also people who had opportunities but wasted them because they were too busy complaining. They got so caught up in blaming their circumstances that they never took control of their future. They let their frustrations hold them back instead of pushing forward. They let the things they couldn't control distract them from what they could control, and as a result, they stayed stuck. You have a choice every single day. You can either spend your time focusing on the things that are outside of your control, or you can put that energy into what you can influence. You can waste your time being upset about what's happening around you, or you can invest your time in improving yourself. You can get caught up in the uncontrollable, or you can take charge of your own actions, your own mindset, and your own progress. Think about your goals. Think about where you want to be in life. Now ask yourself, are you spending more time worrying about the things you can't change? Or are you focused on taking action toward what you can change? Because that right there is the difference between success and failure. That's the difference between people who make things happen and people who sit on the sidelines complaining. At the end of the day, life will always throw challenges your way. There will always be things you wish you could change but can't. But if you keep putting your focus there, you'll never move forward. If you keep giving energy to the things outside your control, you'll never take charge of the things inside your control. And the truth is, the people who succeed in life are the ones who understand this, that they don't waste time worrying about what they can't fix. They don't get stuck in frustration over things they have no power over. Instead, they focus their energy on the things they do have the power to change. The past is one of the heaviest weights a person can carry. It lingers in the back of the mind, replaying moments that can't be changed, decisions that can't be undone, and words that can't be taken back. People get stuck in a cycle of regret, thinking about what they should have done, what they could have said, or how things would have been different if only they had made another choice. But the reality is, no amount of thinking, no amount of worrying, no amount of stressing will ever rewrite history. What's done is done. The question is, how long will you let the past hold you hostage? There are people walking around every single day trapped by things that happened years ago. They let old mistakes define them. They let past failures shape their future. They let pain from yesterday ruin their chance at happiness today. They are so busy looking backward that they can't move forward. And the problem with that is, when your eyes are stuck on the rearview mirror, you miss everything that's right in front of you. You miss the opportunities, the growth, the possibilities. You miss the present because you're still living in what was. Some people are still angry about things that happened a decade ago. They're still carrying bitterness from relationships that ended. They're still frustrated about chances they didn't take. They're still ashamed of mistakes they made. But what they don't realize is they're punishing themselves over and over again for something that's already in the past. They're keeping themselves in a prison that no longer exists. And every day they hold on to it, they rob themselves of the chance to be free. Regret is a dangerous thing. It sneaks in and whispers all the ways you could have done things differently. It convinces you that you missed your only shot, that you ruined your future, that you'll never recover from what happened. But regret is a liar, because as long as you're breathing, as long as you're alive, you still have a chance to create something new. The only thing keeping you from doing that is your attachment to what already happened. People don't realize that the past has no power except the power you give it. If you keep replaying an old mistake, you keep reliving it. If you keep thinking about how someone hurt you, you let them hurt you again and again. If you keep holding on to what went wrong, you can never focus on what can go right. You are the only one keeping that pain alive. You are the only one keeping that moment fresh in your mind. And until you decide to release it, it will continue to control you. The truth is, everybody has a past. Everybody has made mistakes. Everybody has something they wish they could go back and change. But the difference between people who move forward and people who stay stuck is choice. Some people decide to learn from their past and use it as fuel. Others let their past become a prison that traps them in guilt, anger, or disappointment. But at the end of the day, it's their decision, and it's your decision too. Think about all the time that's wasted worrying about what already happened. Think about all the moments you've spent dwelling on things you can't fix. Now imagine if all that time, all that energy, all that mental space had been used to build something new. Imagine if instead of replaying mistakes, you studied them and used them as a guide. Imagine if instead of resenting the past, you took control of the now and made sure your future would be different. Too many people let their past failures dictate their future. They tell themselves, I messed up before, so I'll mess up again. They convince themselves that because they failed once, they'll never succeed. But failure is only permanent if you stop. It's only final if you quit. If you're still moving, still learning, still trying, then your past failure is just a stepping stone toward success. But if you let it define you, if you let it become your identity, then you're the one holding yourself back. Then there are people who are stuck in past pain. They let what someone else did to them keep them bitter, closed off, afraid to trust, afraid to love. They let one bad experience shape their entire perspective. But when you do that, you're giving that person, that situation, power over your life. They hurt you once, and now you're letting them continue to affect you every single day. But why? Why let someone who doesn't deserve to be in your life still have control over your happiness? Why let a past experience dictate your future relationships, your future success, your future joy? People don't realize that holding on to the past is a choice. They think they have to feel guilty forever. They think they have to be angry. They think they have to carry the weight of what happened. But the truth is, you can drop that weight anytime you choose. You can decide that your past doesn't define you. You can decide that you're done reliving that pain. You can decide that your future is more important than your past. Forgiving yourself is one of the hardest things to do. People hold on to their mistakes like they're a life sentence. They replay moments they wish they could erase. But what if instead of punishing yourself, you learned from it? What if instead of shaming yourself, you grew from it? The greatest lessons come from failure. The most powerful transformations come from struggle, but only if you allow them to. Only if you take those experiences and turn them into fuel instead of chains. Some people need to forgive themselves. Others need to forgive someone else, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Not because what they did was okay, but because you refuse to let it keep holding you back. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean excusing what happened. It means you're choosing to no longer let it control you. It means you're cutting the ties that keep you attached to that pain. It means you're freeing yourself. Letting go of the past doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean it wasn't real. It means you refuse to let it define your future. It means you acknowledge that you can't change it, so you choose to move forward. It means you understand that every second you spend stuck in the past is a second you're not living in the now. And the now is where change happens. The now is where opportunities are. The now is where life is actually happening. There is nothing you can do to rewrite history. No amount of regret, no amount of guilt, no amount of anger will ever change what already happened. But you do have the power to change what happens next. You do have the ability to take control of your story. You do have the choice to either keep carrying the weight of the past or to set it down and walk forward. People spend so much of their time worrying about what others think. They hold themselves back because they're afraid of being judged. They hesitate to take risks because they don't want to look foolish. They suppress their true selves because they're too busy trying to fit into someone else's expectations. But the truth is, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to control how people see you. Some people will like you, some people won't. Some will support you, some will doubt you. Some will cheer you on, some will tear you down. That's life. That's human nature. And the more time you spend worrying about it, the more power you give away. Every second you spend trying to impress people is a second you could have spent working on you. Every moment you waste trying to prove yourself to someone else is a moment you could have spent becoming the best version of yourself. Too many people let the opinions of others dictate their choices. They choose a career not because they love it, but because they think it's what their family expects. They live in fear of stepping outside the box because they don't want to be talked about. They settle for mediocrity because they'd rather blend in than stand out. But in the end, what do they get? A life that isn't theirs. A life designed by other people's expectation. A life where they never truly feel free. You cannot live for others and expect to be happy. You cannot chase validation and expect to feel fulfilled. You cannot give control of your self-worth to people who don't even know your full story. Some of the people judging you don't even understand what it took for you to get where you are. They don't know the struggles you overcame. They don't know the sacrifices you made. And yet, you're letting them influence how you feel about yourself. The problem is people spend their whole lives running from judgment. But judgment will always be there. No matter what you do, someone will have something to say. If you're successful, they'll say you got lucky. If you fail, they'll say they saw it coming. If you try something new, they'll call you crazy. If you play it safe, they'll say you're wasting your potential. There is no winning with people who have already made up their minds about you. So why waste energy trying? Instead of worrying about what others think, ask yourself, what do I think? Instead of chasing approval, ask yourself, do I approve of the life I'm living? Instead of trying to be liked, ask yourself, do I even like who I'm becoming? Because at the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with your choices. You are the one who has to look in the mirror and be proud of what you see. You are the one who has to deal with the consequences of your decision. So why are you giving other people the pen to write your story? There are people out there who have great ideas, but they never act on them because they're afraid of what others might say. They have dreams, but they never chase them because they don't want to be laughed at. They have talents, but they never share them because they don't want to be criticized. But what they don't realize is while they're waiting for approval, time is passing. Opportunities are slipping away. Life is moving forward with or without them. People who achieve great things don't do it by worrying about opinions. They do it by staying focused. They do it by believing in themselves when no one else does. They do it by tuning out the noise and staying committed to their vision. The biggest difference between successful people and those who never reach their potential isn't talent, it isn't intelligence, it isn't luck, it's courage. The courage to keep going even when people don't believe in them. The courage to trust themselves when others doubt them. The courage to be who they are unapologetically. The reality is, most of the people you're worried about impressing won't even remember half of what you do. They have their own problems, their own struggles, their own insecurities. And yet, you're shaping your life around their opinions. You're holding yourself back because of them. You're letting their words stop you from reaching your potential. Think about the people who criticize others the most. Are they successful? Are they happy? Are they living their best life? Usually, the loudest critics are the ones doing the least. The people who are actually out there achieving their goals don't have time to tear others down. They're too busy building. They're too busy working. They're too busy focused on their own journey. So ask yourself, are you living for yourself or are you living for the approval of people who don't even matter? Are you making decisions based on what excites you or based on what will keep people from talking? Are you building a life that fulfills you or a life that looks good to others but feels empty inside? Too many people reach the end of their lives full of regrets, not because of what they did, but because of what they didn't do. They didn't chase their dreams. They didn't take the risks. They didn't live authentically. And why? Because they were too worried about what other people would think. But here's the thing. Those same people whose opinions they feared, they don't even remember them. They moved on with their own lives while the person who played it safe is left with nothing but what ifs. Nobody's opinion will ever matter more than yours. Nobody's approval will ever be more important than the approval you give yourself. Nobody's judgment will ever be strong enough to stop you unless you let it. People will talk whether you succeed or fail. They will have opinions whether you try or give up. They will always have something to say. But at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your journey, it's your happiness on the line. So stop giving other people control over something that was never theirs to begin with. Life is unpredictable. No matter how much planning, preparation, or effort you put in, there will always be situations you can't control. You can't control what other people say or do. You can't control the challenges that come your way. You can't control the setbacks, the disappointments, or the obstacles that life throws at you. But there is one thing you always have control over: your response. How you respond to a situation is more important than the situation itself. Two people can go through the same struggle, but one will rise while the other crumbles. The difference is not in the struggle, but in the response. One person takes control of their attitude, their effort, and their mindset, while the other lets circumstances dictate their emotions, their actions, and ultimately their future. The truth is, you don't get to choose what happens to you, but you do get to choose how you handle it. You get to decide whether you let obstacles break you or build you. You get to decide whether you let negativity drain you or push you forward. You get to decide whether you complain about your problems or look for solutions. That choice is yours. And the moment you realize that, the moment you take full ownership of your reactions, that's the moment you take your power back. Most people go through life reacting to everything. Someone disrespects them and they immediately respond with anger. Something doesn't go their way and they let it ruin their whole day. They allow outside forces to dictate how they feel, how they act, and what they do next. But when you live like that, you give control of your life to everything except yourself. You let emotions run you. You let circumstances shape you. You let other people decide how your day is going to go. There will always be things in life that try to shake you. People will test your patience. Situations will challenge your strength. Unexpected problems will threaten to knock you down. But the real question isn't whether you'll face difficulty. It's how you'll respond when you do. Because life isn't about avoiding problems. It's about learning how to navigate them without letting them break you. A person who learns how to control their response is dangerous. They can walk into the same storm as everyone else, but while others are panicking, they remain calm. While others are wasting time blaming, complaining, and reacting emotionally, they are thinking, adjusting, and finding solutions. That's what separates those who win from those who stay stuck. It's easy to let frustration take over when things don't go as planned. It's easy to lash out when someone disrespects you. It's easy to give up when life feels unfair, but easy doesn't build strength. Easy doesn't lead to growth. Easy doesn't create the kind of person who can handle the challenges that come with success. Strength is built when you learn how to control yourself, even when the world around you is out of control. Some people let a single moment of frustration ruin an entire day. They wake up with a goal, a plan, and a mindset to be productive. Then something small happens. Someone cuts them off in traffic, a coworker makes a rude comment, or something unexpected throws them off schedule. Instead of letting it go, they let that moment take over. They spend hours replaying it, letting it control their emotions, letting it turn a good day into a bad one. But was it really the situation that ruined their day, or was it their response to the situation? You can't always control your first reaction, but you can control what happens next. If you get bad news, your first instinct might be frustration, disappointment, or even anger. But after that moment passes, what do? Do you sit in negativity? Do you let it stop you from moving forward? Or do you take a deep breath, refocus, and ask yourself what your next move is? Most people don't realize how much control they actually have over their lives. They think their emotions are automatic, that their reactions are just who they are. But the truth is, every single day you are making choices, whether you realize it or not. You are choosing how you respond to difficulty. You are choosing whether to stay calm or lose control. You are choosing whether to let something bring you down or push you forward. The problem is most people don't recognize these choices, and because of that, they never take responsibility for them. Think about how much power you give away when you let outside forces dictate your emotions. If someone can make you mad with just a few words, they have control over you. If a small inconvenience can ruin your entire day, that situation has control over you. If an unexpected challenge can make you want to quit, then your circumstances are running your life instead of you. But when you take control of your response, that power comes back to you. Some of the most successful people in the world didn't get there because life was easy for them. They got there because they learned how to stay focused even when life got hard. They learned how to control their emotions instead of letting their emotions control them. They trained themselves to respond with discipline, not with impulse. And because of that, they stayed on track even when others would have given up. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles in your path. It will challenge you in ways you never expected. But how you respond to those challenges will determine everything. Do you give up or do you push forward? Do you react emotionally or do you stay disciplined? Do you focus on the problem or do you focus on the solution? That choice is always in your hands. Worry is one of the biggest thieves of joy, peace, and progress. It keeps people stuck in a cycle of fear, anxiety, and hesitation, making them afraid to take action because they're too busy imagining all the ways things could go wrong. But here's the truth. Worry changes nothing. It doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't make things better. It doesn't prevent bad things from happening. All it does is drain energy, time, and focus that could be used for something productive. People worry about things they have no control over. They stress over the opinions of others. They fear the future because they don't know what's coming. They replay mistakes from the past, hoping that somehow thinking about them will change what happened. But none of that changes reality. None of that makes life any easier. In fact, all it does is create unnecessary suffering. The mind is powerful, and what you focus on grows. If you constantly think about everything that could go wrong, your brain starts looking for reasons to confirm those fears. You start seeing obstacles where there aren't any. You start doubting yourself before you even begin. You start holding yourself back because you've convinced yourself that failure is inevitable. But what if, instead of focusing on fear, you focused on solutions? What if, instead of worrying about what might happen, you took control of what you can make happen? Most of the things people worry about never even come true. They create problems in their minds that don't exist in reality. They imagine worst-case scenarios, spending hours, days, even years fearing something that never actually happens. And even when something does go wrong, worrying about it beforehand didn't make it easier to handle. It just meant they suffered twice, once in their imagination and once in real life. People think worrying is productive because it makes them feel like they're doing something. They think if they obsess over a problem long enough, they'll find a solution. But there's a difference between thinking and overthinking, between planning and paralyzing yourself with fear. Worry doesn't lead to action. It leads to hesitation. It keeps people stuck in their heads instead of moving forward in their lives. Some people worry so much about the future that they forget to live in the present. They're so afraid of what might happen tomorrow that they don't enjoy what's happening right now. They miss opportunities because they're too busy second guessing. They miss moments of happiness because they're too busy anticipating problems. But the future's coming whether you stress about it or not. And when it does, wouldn't you rather face it with strength, focus, and energy instead of exhaustion from worry? There are things in life that are within your control and there are things that aren't. But the problem is most people focus all their energy on the things they can't change instead of the things they can. They can't control the economy, but they stress about it. They can't control other people's opinions, but they let them dictate their actions. They can't control whether or not bad things happen, but they waste time trying to predict and prevent every possible problem. Imagine how much more powerful they would be if they took all that energy and used it on things that actually mattered? What if, instead of worrying about failure, they focus on preparing for success? What if, instead of fearing rejection, they focus on becoming so good that they couldn't be ignored? What if, instead of stressing over the unknown, they focus on getting stronger, wiser, and better every single day? That's the difference between people who succeed and people who stay stuck. The ones who win don't waste time worrying about things they can't control. They focus on what they can do and take action. Some people use worry as an excuse. They tell themselves they're not ready, so they keep waiting. They tell themselves they need more time, more information, more certainty before they start. But deep down, what they're really doing is avoiding risk. They think if they just prepare enough, they can guarantee success. But success is never guaranteed. No matter how much you plan, there will always be unknowns. No matter how much you think things through, there will always be surprises. The only way to truly know if something will work is to do it. People who let worry control them never take the first step. They stay stuck in the same place, convincing themselves they're being responsible when in reality, they're just afraid. They fear failing. They fear looking foolish. They fear stepping outside their comfort zones. But comfort zones don't lead to growth. They don't lead to progress. They don't lead to the kind of life that people dream of having. You have to ask yourself, is your worry serving you? Is it helping you grow, or is it keeping you small? Is it pushing you forward, or is it holding you back? Because if all it's doing is stopping you from taking action, then it's time to let it go. Fear will always be there. Doubt will always try to creep in. But just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to listen to it. You don't have to let worry dictate your choices. You don't have to let fear stop you from moving forward. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't isn't that they never feel fear, it's that they don't let it stop them. Think about all the time you've wasted worrying about things that never happened. Think about all the energy you've spent stressing over problems that never came to be. Now imagine if you had used that time, that energy, that focus on something productive. Imagine how much further ahead you'd be if, instead of worrying, you had just taken action. You can't avoid uncertainty. You can't avoid the unknown, but you can choose to trust yourself. You can choose to take the first step, even when you don't have all the answers. You can choose to stop letting worry rob you of the life you're meant to live. There comes a point in life when you have to decide whether you're going to keep carrying the weight of the past or finally let it go. Some people spend their entire lives holding on to things that no longer serve them. Grudges, regrets, mistakes, failures, and pain that should have been left behind a long time ago. But the longer you hold on to those things, the heavier they become. The more space they take up in your mind, the more they drain your energy, the more they keep you stuck in a place you were never meant to stay. Too many people allow their past to define them. They let one bad decision, one painful experience, one moment of failure shape their entire identity. They convince themselves that because they messed up once, they'll never get another chance. Because they were hurt before, they can never trust again. Because things didn't work out in the past, they never will. But your past is not your future. Your past is not a life sentence. Your past is not a chain meant to keep you locked in the same place forever. The problem is, people think that holding on to pain gives them power. They think that if they stay angry at someone, they're getting revenge. That if they hold on to guilt, they're punishing themselves enough to make up for their mistakes. That if they keep replaying what went wrong, they'll somehow figure out a way to change it. But none of that works. Holding on to anger doesn't hurt the person who wronged you. It only poisons you. Holding on to guilt doesn't erase what happened. It only stops you from forgiving yourself and moving forward. Holding on to the past doesn't change it. It only robs you of your future. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that what's done is done. You can't rewrite the past. But you can choose what happens next. You can choose to keep dragging the weight of yesterday into today, or you can choose to put it down and walk forward. You can choose to let your past be the reason you stay stuck or the reason you grow stronger. The choice is always yours. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for closure. They wait for an apology that may never come. They wait for someone to acknowledge the pain they caused. They wait for the perfect moment when they finally feel ready to move on. But closure isn't something that comes from the outside. It's something you give yourself. If you're waiting for someone else to free you from your past, you might be waiting forever. But the moment you decide to stop looking for answers that don't exist and start focusing on building your future, that's the moment you take your power back. Regret is another thing that keeps people stuck. They look back at their lives and wish they had done things differently. They wish they had taken that opportunity. They wish they had said yes instead of no, or no instead of yes. They wish they had been braver, stronger, smarter. But regret is useless if it doesn't turn into action. What's the point of regretting something if you're not going to do anything about it? What's the point of wishing things had been different if you're not using that knowledge to create a better future? The only way to make peace with the past is to learn from it. If you failed, ask yourself what that failure taught you. If you made a mistake, ask yourself how you can do better next time. If you were hurt, ask yourself what boundaries you need to set so it doesn't happen again. Pain is only wasted if you don't turn it into wisdom. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things for people to do, not just forgiving others, but forgiving themselves. Some people carry shame for years over things they did when they didn't know any better. They punish themselves over and over again for mistakes that should have been let go of a long time ago. But at some point, you have to realize that you're not the same person you were back then. You've grown, you've learned, you've evolved. Holding on to guilt doesn't make you a better person. It only keeps you trapped in the past. And when it comes to forgiving others, people think that if they let go of the anger, they're letting the other person win. They think that if they forgive, it means they're saying what happened was okay. But forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the bitterness, the resentment, the pain that's been weighing you down. It's about making the decision that you will no longer allow what someone else did to control your emotions, your energy, and your future. Sometimes letting go means walking away. It means realizing that some relationships aren't meant to last forever, that some people will never change, that some situations will never be what you hoped they'd be. And as hard as it is to accept, holding on to something that is no longer serving you is only delaying your own growth. Letting go is not weakness, it's strength. It's saying, I refuse to let my past control me any longer. It's choosing peace over anger, freedom over resentment, growth over stagnation. It's making the conscious decision to stop replaying old stories and start writing a new one. People don't let go because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they move on, they'll lose a part of themselves. That if they stop holding on to the past, they'll forget what they went through. That if they forgive, they'll be vulnerable to getting hurt again. But letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means choosing to move forward despite what happened. It means taking the lessons with you, but leaving the pain behind. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do you want to stay stuck or do you want to be free? Do you want to carry the weight of the past forever or do you want to step into the future without anything holding you back? Do you want to live your life defined by what happened before or by what you choose to do now? Because the past will always be there, but you don't have to live in it. The moment you decide to let go is the moment you make space for something new.